Trade Day. This is episode 70. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason. And today we are talking about the trade deadline. You guessed it. Shocker, right?
Who would have thunk the thing that we were all just like poring over for like a week was going to be the thing we talked about this week?
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed it, but
me neither.
Here we are. Before we get started, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Make sure you let us know your thoughts through the YouTube comments, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or on Twitter and Facebook at Getaway Day Pod. Do you want to plug the giveaway here?
Absolutely. All right. So if you guys listened last week or have seen our social medias on TikTok, Facebook, or Twitter, we are currently running a giveaway. And I wish I were smart enough to have grabbed this before, but I'm going to go grab it real quick. All right. So we are giving away a Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez dual bobblehead. That was the giveaway at the June 25th White Sox versus Orioles game. I actually have two of these, so the one that you would be getting is still in the box in pristine condition. This one's mine, but it's a really awesome bobblehead. Figured we have been doing this for 70 whole episodes now, and just wanted to kind of give something back to you guys. So go check out our Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, and I'll try and pull those up to the front of the timelines. And make sure to follow all the instructions. So you have to be following the account. You have to retweet. You have to like the post. On TikTok, it's a little bit different because there's not like a retweet or anything that I can go and track. So instead, you have to follow us, like the post, and then just comment who your favorite player is what I believe I put on there. So do that, and you can be entered to win. You can be entered through all three things. So you can have 3 shots to win. Right now, there is a very, very low number of people entered. So your chance to win it is very high if you get in right now. That could change, and we could get a lot of people. So make sure to get your name in the drawing there 3 times. Cool. Oh, and I guess the one other thing, if we get to 100 entries, I do have a secondary prize that I'm also going to be giving away. It is a top secret, and it will be revealed if and when, emphasis on when, we get to 100 entries.
All right, that all sounds good. Let's talk some non-trade stuff here for a quick minute. Then we're just going to really dive into all the action that happened the last few days, and especially the last 2 days. So Jacob deGrom, he's back. He made his first start of the season on Tuesday. He pitched 5 innings. He gave up 1 run and struck out 6. The Mets lost to the Nationals of all teams right now, which is kind of funny. But it's great to see that deGrom is back, because when he's pitching, he's kind of the best pitcher in the game. And that's going to be huge for the stretch run for the Mets now, having both deGrom and Scherzer healthy.
Yeah, getting deGrom back is huge. This man, when he's healthy and when he's pitching, is probably the best pitcher on the planet. And we've got a lot of great pitchers. We have Justin Verlander pitching the way he is this year. Shohei Ohtani has been dominant on the mound. And in my opinion, Jacob deGrom is maybe the best pure pitcher out of the 3 of them. His problem has been longevity. Which is why his name is, I guess, not leagues above. He's kind of at or slightly below those other 2 that I just mentioned. So getting him back is going to be huge, especially if the Mets want to hold off the Braves, who have been kind of surging recently. So,
yep.
And that might be their biggest move of the trade deadline, and we haven't even started talking about what they did at the trade deadline.
Right.
So
yeah, that one's a true game changer. But speaking of the Braves, they made their own huge move that wasn't a trade, and that was the extension of Austin Riley for 10 years. So we talked about Austin Riley 69 episodes ago on episode 1, when he was pretty much an unproven player going into the 2021 season. And so much has changed now here in a year and a half. where he's signing a $212 million extension to stay with the Braves, which is the biggest contract that they've ever handed out in their franchise's history.
It is like double the money that Acuna got from the
Right.
Braves.
And they've got now all their position core guys kind of locked up. So Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, all those guys are with the team long term. The only guy who's part of their core that may not be back now is Dansby Swanson, who's going to be a free agent at the end of this year.
Yep, and Dansby is going to be. I think we were talking about it. I think Dansby is probably the third out of the shortstops. So it's going to be Trey, then Correa, and then it's going to be Dansby. But that is a fantastic.
Don't forget about Bogarts when he opts out.
Oh crap! This is a fantastic shortstop class, just like last year was supposed to be. Yeah. But I mean, last year's shortstop class hasn't really panned out in this particular season all that well. But yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, that Riley extension though. And this guy went from being unproven, people didn't really know him. Then last year he gets 8th in the MVP voting. This year I imagine he's probably going to be top 10 in the MVP again. Because he's been
higher, right?
He's
been much like a top 3 candidate at this point.
He just won Player of the Month, didn't he?
He had one of the most ridiculous months that has happened in the last like 20 years.
Yeah. But yeah, so
I'll let you take this next one.
All right, so this next one, another acquisition by non-trade, and that is the Cardinals getting Yadier Molina back. He has been hurt for quite a while. Just kind of generic knee soreness and being old. He's a 39-year-old catcher. He had a couple other issues with that. He ended up going back to Puerto Rico to do his rehab there. Finally rejoined the team yesterday. And who pitched yesterday? None other than Adam Wainwright. These guys are back, and they are trying to get that record for starts as a battery. And in Yadi's first start back, they actually took sole second place, passing Warren Spahn and Del Crandall at 317 starts. So they're now second all time. They need 8 more starts to take first place. They've got about maybe 10 more starts this year, so they've both got to stay healthy the whole time if they're going to do it. But that would be a really, really cool record for Yadi and Bueno to share, with Yadi going out here this year. So I'm looking forward to that, and definitely keep an eye on the Cardinals matchups, because if Bueno pitches that day, you should probably watch it, because he is just flat out dominating still. Last night he went 7 shutout innings and just looked really good. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. And then one last note here before we get into the trades. This happened last week actually, but we didn't really talk about it at all. There was no agreement between the Players Association and the league on setting up an international draft. Back when the CBA negotiations were going on this winter, springtime, they set the July 25th as a deadline for having that international draft or not. And if they didn't agree to have it, then the qualifying offer would remain in place as it has been for many years now. So that's something to keep in mind, especially in the off season. And it sort of is related to what happened in this trade deadline, actually, because with that qualifying offer, basically you're not eligible for it if you do get traded mid-season. So guys that get traded maybe have better markets during free agency. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, I think, with some of these players.
Yeah. So that was definitely a big one. I'm actually personally not upset that there's no international draft. I kind of think it's better that we don't have an international draft.
Yeah, that's an episode in itself, just talking about the potential issues that come with that. So
yeah, and we'll
talk about that sometime.
Yeah, and we did talk about it a bit back during the lockout whenever we were doing a lot of the CBA kind of negotiation discussions there. So definitely go back and check those out if you want to know any more about that. And we'll put it on the agenda for a future episode here as well. But, is there anything else not trade related that we need to talk about?
I just got trades on my mind. That's all I want to talk about.
All right, let's do it. I'm here for trades.
All right, so we got to start with the big one. It actually happened. Juan Soto got traded from the Nationals, and he also got sent out with Josh Bell. So the return on this deal was just absolutely massive. There's really no comparison for what the Padres gave up to acquire a generational talent, guy that's kind of on the Hall of Fame track in Soto, and then another really good player who's having a career year in Josh Bell. So what did the Padres give up here?
All right,
They gave up Mackenzie Gore. They gave up C.J. Abrams, both guys that have played in the majors, kind of had some struggles. Gore's actually injured right now, and they were both top 10 prospects at one point.
I think Mackenzie Gore was the number 2, right? Behind Adley.
They were up there for sure.
Yeah.
Beyond those guys, Robert Hassell III and James Wood, who are both outfielders. Hassell drafted in 2020, James Wood drafted in 2021. They've both been really good in the low levels of the minors, and they're both really young kids. And then an 18-year-old pitching prospect who's already hitting 102 miles per hour, Harlan Susana. And the final piece was Luke Voigt. But maybe we'll talk a little bit about the dramatics that went into this trade before the final deal was kind of completed. So the last piece of the deal was supposed to be Eric Hosmer, the much maligned first baseman from the Padres, who's got a huge contract. He was owed, almost like around $40 million for the next 3+ seasons. But he had a partial no trade clause as part of his deal, where he was able to block this deal to the Nationals, and that's exactly what he did. So there was a time when people were thinking that might actually hold up this deal, but they had all the pieces in place. They just had to replace Hosmer with Luke Voigt, and that was the final deal. So what's your reaction on this deal?
All right. So before I get into that, I just wanted to make 2 other small comments here. So Robert Hassell and James Wood are both really, really good prospects. They're top 100 prospects in all of baseball. On the MLB list, Robert Hassell actually comes in at number 21. It's number 41 over on the Fangraphs list. And James Wood is down at number 88. But with them both being as young as they are, they're going to be really, really highly valued prospects by the time they get up to double AAA, with them both being down at A-ball right now. As for my reaction to this trade, I have so many conflicting thoughts, and I don't even know where to start. So, one, holy hell, Juan Soto just got traded.
Yeah.
He's the best player ever to be traded, right? He's got to be.
Yeah, at this age, I would say, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because there's a lot. You could go on Twitter and find all these different comparisons to who he's played through his age 23 season, but that list includes guys like Mike Trout, Ted Williams, Hank Aaron. The list just kind of goes on and on. Like, he is an elite talent, and he's 23 years old. The fact that he was traded at all is ridiculous, because no team should be giving up this guy. That being said, he wasn't going to sign long-term. They're probably selling the team this year. Well, I think they are selling the team in the offseason, aren't they?
I think they're trying, yeah.
Yeah, so who knows what's going to happen in the future. If this franchise wants to make sure that they get something back for him, this was the right move. And they got a huge haul. Like, Gore is an amazing young pitcher. We got to watch him pitch in person. He was electric. And yeah, he's going to have some growing pains here because he's 23?
Yeah, he's really young, and
yeah,
he's a little hurt right now, but he showed some promise, and he's obviously got the prospect pedigree and everything.
Yeah, and C.J. Abrams is a pretty similar situation. Young outfielder. He's not had a ton of playing time. It's going to take him some time to adjust, but he's also incredibly young. Then you get to these two top 100 prospects. Harlan Susana is, I believe, the 19 prospect, or was the 19 prospect in the Padres at the time of the trade. It's a big haul. The only question that I have is it enough? Like, does it feels like it's not enough for Soto, because we were sitting here hearing all these rumors about who might be going back from all these different teams. And when this initially came out, it didn't feel to me that it was enough. And the reason that I say that is because you also get Josh Bell. Like, if this was Soto only, yeah, that feels about right. But now you're throwing Josh Bell in there and you didn't get another piece. You should have just kept Bell out of it, got the same thing, and traded him somewhere else and got another piece. Like, it just seems like, I don't know. I can't figure it out. Like,
yeah, I guess, yeah, I understand your feeling about it not being enough, but at the same time, when you think about it, like from the top level, right? If you count Gore and Abrams kind of as prospects, and then obviously Hassell and Wood, you think of like 4 top 100 prospects basically getting moved at the same time, plus another guy in Susana that is probably going to be a top 100 prospect in a year. That's a ridiculous return. So you never want to trade Juan Soto, but if you do, this is kind of what you got to get back.
Yeah. And I guess thinking about it, they got exactly what they said the asking price for Soto was.
4 or 5 top prospects.
Yep. A total of 5 to 6 players, 4 to 5 top prospects. That's exactly what this is. I think maybe because that was the initial asking price, it was expected to come down, but throwing Bell in there got them what they wanted, is maybe what that ended up being. Yeah. So,
and the part we may never know is, how did the other few teams that were supposedly the contenders in the Cardinals and the Dodgers kind of drive up the price, or what was their offer? How close were they? I mean, at the end of the day, it was just a preference by the Nationals probably to.
Well, John Mozeliak actually came out and said he knew on Monday night the Cardinals were out of it. Like, it was not just so there were a lot of rumors with the Cardinals about like, oh, the Cardinals won't give up Dylan Carlson. That's the only reason that Soto's not a Cardinal. That's not true. At least Mo said publicly that's not true. He's like, don't put any of this on Dylan, which a lot of Cardinal fans are. Stop it. It's not his fault. He's a 23-year-old player. He doesn't make that decision.
Why would they be blaming the player?
I don't know, but Cardinals Twitter is stupid. They're pissing me off. They need to stop. Or I'm going to go make another burner account, and I'm just going to go and start lighting all these people up, because this is ridiculous. But no, Mo said it's like, he's like, we weren't close. We knew what San Diego was offering, and he's like, we weren't going to be able to do that. You saw what they gave up in Gore and Abrams, and he's like, yeah, no, we couldn't do that and also feel like we could compete in the future. And the Cardinals make sure that they have enough talent in the pipeline that they can be competitive forever. It's a team that hasn't had a losing season since what, the 90s?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So it makes sense if you think about it from that perspective. And if they knew they were out on Monday night, I mean, obviously the Nationals did too, but nobody came out and said it, and it drove the price up. So may have been.
Let's talk about this from the Padres side, though. Just from a baseball watching perspective, like, this team is going to be just awesome to watch, with Juan Soto, Machado, and Tatis all batting back to back to back. I mean, that is unreal.
Well,
star power.
And I think people are leaving out a guy who I think is incredibly underrated, and Jake the Rake Cronenworth.
And Josh Bell.
Yeah. Like, this team is stacked. The back third of their lineup leaves a bit to be desired here, because I think Will Myers is still in there. They don't really have an elite catcher of any pedigree. But no, this lineup is starting to look like a Dodgers lineup. And
they're built to win right now. They sort of said we don't care about the future. We can replace these prospects some other way. But I'm all in for it. Like it's awesome. Like I'm glad they're doing that, and you got to give credit to the Padres for not hiding behind the fact that they're a small market team. If you want to win, you can. You can spend the money necessary, and that's what the Padres are doing. So
there's
I give
maybe
them,
two owners that can claim that they don't have enough money to do that, and they're the two that should not be major league owners, in Castellini and Bob Nutting.
and even they can probably spend more than they do.
Yeah, they can spend more than they do. They can't spend Dodgers money. I get that. They can spend more than they do. But that's not the only major trade that the Padres made, which is the crazy part. Right. We just counted it out. They gave up essentially 4 top 100 prospects, with the 2 that just recently graduated, Hassell and Wood. And then they went and they got Josh Hader.
Well, it's the other way around. They got Josh Hader the day before.
They got Josh Hader, and then they did this, but we haven't talked about the Hader trade yet. So, Josh Hader comes over from the Brewers, and they sent back Taylor Rogers, who was their closer, who has 28 saves on the year, Dinelson Lumet, Esteury Ruiz, and Robert Gasser, who both of them were top 30 prospects for the Padres. And Hader has next year as well, so not a rental. So they made 2 huge trades of non-rentals to bolster the back end of their bullpen and their lineup. And this trade, they really didn't give up that much. The weirdest part about it is actually what Milwaukee did.
Yeah, for sure. So like they went out and they got Josh Hader. He's a great pitcher. Obviously, everyone knows that. And then, like you said, they didn't give up those top prospects. That's when I started thinking, wait, they still have Robert Hassell. They still have James Wood. They can go out and get Juan Soto. They can make the deal happen. They did that. But getting back to the Hader trade from the Brewers side, it's incredibly unusual for a team that's in contention, in first place, and they're trading their all-star closer.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guys they got back in return definitely pretty solid. Like Taylor Rogers, he's been a really successful relief pitcher. He could very well pitch as well as Hader for the rest of the season. That wouldn't be shocking. He is a free agent at the end of the year. Esteury Ruiz, he is a very fast prospect. He kind of had a breakout this year. He stole 60 bases at AA and AAA this year. Not really sure if he can hit, but the Brewers will find out, I guess. And then Robert Gasser, who was a second-round pick, I believe, last year. Pretty solid pitching prospect. And then Dinelson Lumet, a guy that was awesome, kind of on top of the game in 2020, but has really struggled since then and with injuries. He got traded to the Brewers, and then he actually got designated for assignment today. So a little bit weird that they made the trade and they couldn't find a space on the roster for him, but
yeah,
whatever.
And he's a guy that struggled with injuries and things like that, and he's not been the most effective recently. So I think that was why he ended up being the one that got the boot. But yeah, it's really weird from kind of I guess if you're looking at it on paper, this maybe makes sense. Yeah, you're giving up an all-star closer, but you're getting an was Taylor Rogers an all-star last year?
He might have been one this year too. I think he was.
Yeah, so you're trading an all-star closer for an all-star closer. You're losing a year of control, but you're getting 2 prospects and you're getting Dinelson Lumet. On paper, that makes sense. And then you DFA Lumet because you don't have room for him, but this doesn't make sense from a team cohesion standpoint, really, because you're taking a guy off of a team that is in first place, who is a very key piece of that team, just kind of ripping him away, slapping a Band-Aid on there and saying, see, it's the exact same. We have Josh Hader at home. Josh Hader at home. Taylor Rogers.
I guess I will say that this is them saying they're really confident in what they have in Devin Williams to step into that role.
Agreed. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But Devin Williams is very understandably not happy.
I saw that.
He said that basically the clubhouse just went from being on top of the world, we're in first place, hell yeah, to just silent and dead. And
Yeah, so
that seems like a poor move if you're trying to win a division.
it's interesting that you bring that up, but you just made me remember last year. Remember when Kendall Graveman got traded from Seattle to Houston, and Seattle's clubhouse is really mad about that
Yeah.
because he was their, awesome closer for the first half of the season. He got traded out, and then basically the guy they got in return, Joe Smith, pitched better than him for the rest of the season, and it didn't really matter. So I mean, something
Yeah.
like that could happen, but at least from a um, yeah, from like you were saying, the cohesion standpoint, it's like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know.
And
That's
they did kind
probably
of bolster. They also bolstered their bullpen by adding Matt Bush and then injured Trevor Rosenthal. So they're trying to improve the bullpen and the depth of it in general, even though they lost the top tier guy in Hader.
yeah. And Rosenthal's coming off an injury. I think he was injured up until like last week.
Yeah, I don't think he's pitched yet.
So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how he pitches when he comes back. But yeah, I don't know.
Let's get back to the Padres here real quick because they made some other moves that we should touch on. They did send Eric Hosmer against his will, or he didn't have a choice, I guess, to Boston. And I think that's important because they traded Luke Voigt, they traded Hosmer, and they replaced first base with Josh Bell. So that's kind of like addition by subtraction by getting rid of Hosmer. And the
Yeah,
fact that they got rid of Hosmer in the first place is like just genius. How are they able to do that? Mostly because because they're saying they're going to pay most of the contract, I guess.
I think they're paying the entirety of the $44 million remaining on the contract, and they gave up Max Ferguson and Corey Rozier. They did get back actually a fairly good prospect to Jay Groom though.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just paying someone else to take him. They are,
got something,
but they also got a decent prospect back out of it. Jay Groom, I think, was the 15th overall prospect in the Red Sox organization, somewhere around there, 12, 15.
Yeah, he was a first round pick in 2016. So
Yeah. So, and then the other trade the Padres made was actually going out and getting a third baseman who's been having a career year in Brandon Drury from the Cincinnati Reds. And I think in that one, they gave up Victor Acosta. Was that a 1-for-1?
I think so.
Yeah, which Victor Acosta was another one of their like top 5 prospects in their organization. But yeah, they were definitely in a place from a farm system standpoint to deal at this deadline, and they made the most of it.
Yeah, I really like the Brandon Drury move actually too, because it just kind of improves their bench depth because now they can play guys like Nomar Mazara and Will Myers less than they have been, and those were kind of like the weak spots in the lineup.
And that's another addition by subtraction.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I love that move too. And Drury can play a couple different positions. He's not just a third baseman, which is convenient because he's never seeing third base. Manny is not gonna sit the bench or DH for a day. He's playing every day.
I think Drury will probably play some
second mostly.
Second base, some DH probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Padres. I think we're both in complete agreement, and I haven't heard anyone say differently that they've kind of improved their team more than any other team did over this last week.
I actually will disagree there. There's one team that I think might have improved themselves the most.
Okay.
And well, we're not going to talk about them either, so I'll just throw it out there. The Colorado Rockies. And that's a hot take, and it sounds like a joke, but it's not. And here's why. The Colorado Rockies did not trade their incredibly valuable people for peanuts. That's improvement.
Oh, wow.
They've improved their team by not doing what they do. Now, they did kind of also do what they do by not making any moves whatsoever. But one step at a time got them Jeez.
Their one move was signing a 37-year-old reliever to
Daniel
a
Bard
2-year
did 2
contract
years.
extension.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez, that was so dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb.
What a franchise. But that's also a 2-hour special episode for later.
Yeah, that one is gonna have a non-family friendly tag.
Yes.
Yeah, explicit.
All right. Let's talk about these big pitchers that were on the move here. Luis Castillo got traded from the Reds to Seattle, and this one broke on Friday night, so kind of before the rest of the action happened. But the Reds got back a huge haul. They got two top 100 prospects, shortstops, Noel V. Marte and Edwin Arroyo. They also got Levi Stout, starting pitcher, and Andrew Moore, who's a reliever. And everyone is saying that this is a really good haul to get for 1+ years of Luis Castillo.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, this is not a ton less than what the Nats got for Soto. Like, it's two top 100 prospects and two really good two other pretty good prospects. So the difference is there's no major league piece in Luke Voigt and there's no Mackenzie Gore. But that's
or Abrams.
Well, I'm kind of considering Abrams to be one of those top 100 prospects.
But there were two. There's Hassell and Wood plus the two young major
Oh,
leaguers
okay,
plus Susana, right?
that's
So
a
it's
good point.
not
So
that
I
close.
guess
Yeah.
I guess it would be like Luke Voigt, Hassell, Wood, and Susana would be a pretty similar package. So really, that's a pretty good return if the only thing that you're not getting that the Nats got for Soto Bell is two former top 10 prospects who have made their debuts.
But yeah, I like it for Seattle too because they're. I guess I didn't really see them going after a starting pitcher because they actually have a pretty solid rotation even before this move. Uh, but he's like kind of the best guy they have now, right? He might be the guy starting game one of a playoff series.
Yeah, I think so. That's actually what I was pulling up. So they're kind of rocking a 6-man rotation right now. They're rocking out Logan Gilbert, who is kind of listed as their SP1. But I think in actuality, Castillo is that SP1. Just in the order that they're going right now, he slots in as the 2. Then you got Robbie Ray is 3, Chris Flexen, George Kirby, and Marco Gonzalez. Marco Gonzalez has basically in 2 years gone from being their ace to being their 6th guy in a 6-man rotation.
Yeah.
Like, if that alone should tell you how good their rotation is right now. Because Marco is a solid pitcher that should be in a rotation with a team.
Solid, not so much anymore.
Well, yeah, that's fair. You get my point, though.
Yeah. And then the other second biggest pitcher, I guess, that got moved was Frankie Montas from the A's to the Yankees. And this return is quite a bit different because none of the guys are. I don't think any of these guys are top 100 prospects that they got back. They got back 3 pitchers: Ken Waldachuk, J.P. Sears, Luis Medina, and then a second baseman, Cooper Bowman. These guys are not really. I mean, they might be solid pitchers, but they're probably not going to be like top of the rotation guys.
Ken Waldachuk is a top 100 prospect, by the way.
Okay.
He's the number 70, but I think
they got 1 top 100 prospect while the Reds got 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Reds got guys who were up in like number 17 and number what's the other one? Number 92. So they got the 17 and the 92, whereas for Montas they got the, what did I say it was, the 70, number 70?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So on the Yankees note there, so definitely needed a starting pitcher. and they got one in Montas, so that was a good get. But then right before the deadline, they turn around and they trade Jordan Montgomery, who's a key member of their rotation, trade him to the Cardinals for Harrison Bader, which I guess I'm not really understanding the trade. Like I understand why they would want Bader. It helps them like get a true center fielder that plays really good defense, but he's injured right now, and they're losing a starting pitcher,
So
which I don't get.
real quick, I want to step back to the Montas trade for just a moment. So that Waldichuk, Steers, Medina, Bowman was not just for Montas. It was for Montas and Lou Trevino.
Yeah, true.
So they actually got two pieces, one for the bullpen, one for the rotation. Now coming back to the Jordan Montgomery for Harrison Bader trade, I definitely get it from the Cardinals side. There's not a single question as to why that move was made by the Cardinals. We have a plethora of outfielders. We have zero pitching depth. Yeah, we need a guy. Jordan Montgomery was apparently available. I don't quite get that. It felt like the Yankees should have gone and tried to get another starter. But why did the Yankees want Bader? Because there's not really we don't know when he's going to be back. It might be basically October by the time he's back.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't play until October, or if he doesn't play at all, there's a PTBNL that'll go. It's based on essentially at bats, I think, is what it is. But it's a PTBNL from a predetermined list that I think already exists. So maybe that list is some pretty good prospects. Could be. I don't know. But it feels really weird because you're taking a guy that you're going to put on your 40 man that's not going to play for like another month. And then you lose a starter. Yeah, you're the best team in the league, but doesn't mean you should just be trading away starting pitchers.
Yeah, so like speaking of the Yankees pitching depth, which I think is pretty important, and I have many questions about what they did this trade deadline because they basically reduced all the starting pitching depth they had. So they added Montas, they lost Montgomery, Severino is hurt right now, and then the other guys they traded in Waldichuk, J.P. Sears, those guys were at AAA, so they're like next man up. Luis Heal's out for the season. Clark Schmidt, I think, is hurt. And then they also traded for Cubs reliever Scott Efros, and they gave up a AAA starter named Hayden. I don't remember what his name is. Something. Wesneski. Hayden Wesneski.
Oh yeah, I wasn't going to be able to pronounce that. I'm glad you remembered.
He's another guy that is just kind of at AAA right now, and they don't have him anymore. So they traded 3 AAA starters, a major league starter, and they added 1 starter in return there. So they kind of have just like 5 or 6 guys that could start right now without Severino coming back.
Yeah, and one of them is Domingo Germán, which, quite frankly, isn't a great guy to have right now. He's not been all that good.
Yeah, he just came back from the injury, so he's kind of their number 5 until further notice or something happens.
Yeah.
Okay. What else did the Yankees do? I guess they added Andrew Benintendi, and they offloaded Joey Gallo to the Dodgers.
And the Gallo one is intriguing to me because, yeah, they're just trying to make a roster or move him because he's not been good, just straight up. They sent him over to the Dodgers, who were taking a flyer on him, and they got back the Dodgers number 15 prospect Clayton Beeter, who's a pretty solid young pitcher. So Gallo apparently still has some value.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he cost the Yankees a lot just a year ago. I have a very hard time believing that Joey Gallo is just bad at baseball now. Like he's too talented to just be bad. I think the Dodgers will figure something out.
I think it was the lack of beard. I think it was thrown off his balance and he couldn't hit the ball. So don't worry. It only took him 24 hours and he actually has some length. It's not just stubble. 24 hours. That's it. So
Yeah.
I think that's about all that the Yankees did, though. I mean, well, getting Benintendi, but um,
And the Dodgers are also fairly quiet. They also added Chris Martin to their bullpen, and I think they traded Jake Lamb to the Mariners. So not a whole lot there, but obviously they're a pretty complete club, and they're getting a bunch of pitchers back fairly shortly. So can't really blame them for not doing much. They don't have many holes.
yeah,
Um, talk about the Astros, who I think had a really good trade deadline, and they filled kind of some of their weaknesses with really good players, not necessarily stars, but guys that'll help them a lot. So they traded for Trey Mancini to play first base because Gurriel has not been very good this year. And then they traded for a catcher upgrade in Christian Vasquez from the Red Sox, so they don't have to hit Maldonado any longer. And then they traded from their depth of starting pitchers in Jake Odorizzi to the Braves and got Will Smith, a guy that can help them in the playoffs out of the bullpen.
yeah. I think the most interesting thing about their deadline to me is not so much who they traded for; it's who they didn't trade, because they have a plethora of young starting pitching. And I think a lot of people thought that that was going to be a team that maybe people went to get a starter, if they were looking for young, controllable starters and didn't mind giving up any prospects. And I mean, they didn't have any takers, but they might not have even been selling them.
Yeah.
So they sold off Odorizzi, got a piece back for their bullpen that I think will be beneficial. I mean, Will Smith is not the guy he was 5-6 years ago, but he's still a solid pitcher. But they managed to keep all of their young starting pitching intact. So I think that was kind of the key for me, is like they filled their holes and didn't give up anything that was really of substantial value to them. So
Yeah. Um, on the other side of the Christian Vasquez trade, though, the Red Sox, they had maybe one of the most puzzling trade deadlines I think I can remember. Like they traded their starting catcher, who's having a great year. People were kind of upset about that, but then they go out and they trade for Tommy Pham and trade for Eric Hosmer, and those guys are actually both upgrades over what they've had at those positions. So Tommy Pham's definitely like a better right fielder than Jackie Bradley, and then Hosmer's better than the combination of Franchi Cordero and Bobby Dahlbeck. Like as much as we bag on Hosmer, he plays good defense. He hits for a decent batting average. Like he does some things well. He's not
and
a star player,
and
but
he's not a 100% liability, and
no,
as a hitter, like his big thing is his production compared to his contract, which is not a problem for Boston because they ain't paying him. So
yeah. So I guess the Red Sox kind of were thinking we're gonna bank on our guys getting healthy, and then we can make a run at it. Because I feel like I'm not mad at the moves they made on the addition side, but like trading your catcher is just a weird thing to do.
yeah, and they couldn't get any takers on the guys who you would kind of understand, even if they were trying to compete them trading in guys like JD Martinez, Nate Eovaldi. Like, so the guys that they should have moved are still there, and the guys that they should have kept are gone. The guy, I guess. And then they got
Yeah,
Tommy Pham, and he's gonna fit right in Boston.
yeah, that's right.
That's all I'm saying. Won't say anything else. But yeah. I mean, the what did the Reds get for Tommy Pham?
I don't know. Probably not much. He's on an expiring contract, and he's not like a he's not a great player anymore. He's just all right.
Let's see. ETBNL or cash.
Okay.
So that makes sense. Um yeah, the other thing that we forgot to list down. Uh they traded Jake Diekman to the White Sox for Reese McGuire to take over as catcher.
Yeah,
so
they needed that.
Yeah, so they do have a catcher again. They lost another guy from what was sort of an area of strength, I guess, in their bullpen. But yeah. But on the other side, so from that trade, the Reds didn't get much, but as we've kind of discussed, the Reds, they made out in this trade deadline. They traded all the guys they needed to trade, and we haven't even got to one of them
Tyler
yet.
Malley trade.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that one right now. So the Reds traded Tyler Malley to the Twins, and they got back, I don't have the return here, but they got a top 100 prospect in shortstop Spencer Steer, and then maybe another prospect or two. So
shoot, where? I hate the way that they write these articles on these because they don't put just the. They don't just put the guys they get in here. Cincinnati. Okay, Cincinnati got Christian Encarnacion Strand, who is the number 23 prospect in their organization, but he's got a lot of people that like him climbing up the top 100.
Yeah, he played at Cedar Rapids in the first half.
Yep. Steve Hajar, Spencer Steer. So.
Yep. So, yeah. So on the Red side, like with the Castillo trade, the Drury trade, and the Malley trade, they added 4 really high kind of upside shortstops to their system, which already had 2 really good shortstop prospects. So they are kind of just stockpiling the middle of the diamond, and they'll maybe trade those guys later or move them to different positions or whatever. But it's actually, we have good things to say about the Reds for once. They seem like they're doing the rebuild the right way. At the beginning of the season, we thought, why are they trading Jesse Winker and Suarez? Why aren't they trying to compete this year? But now it's been like pretty clear that rebuilding is kind of the right thing to do at this point.
And they had done everything wrong, in my opinion, up until the deadline here. As at the in the offseason, they did not just basically take the $10 million option on or pay the $10 million salary for Wade Miley. They let him go. Cubs got him. They got nothing in return. Then they go out and they trade Winker and Eugenio and don't really get a lot back because they just didn't want to pay the money. So now they're finally starting to kind of figure out how to rebuild, I think. And
I think they're going all in on it. They're not like doing it half-heartedly, which is the key.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate for Reds fans because Reds fans already suffer quite a bit. And now they're going to go through a rebuild, and that's not fun for anybody. But at least they're doing it right now, and they have a lot of really good prospects. So that's how to do a rebuild correctly. So
yeah. Let's shift over to the AL Central, where the Twins were kind of the only team that made some good moves to help them this season. So they got Malley. They also added Jorge Lopez from the Orioles and Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. So bolstered the bullpen, bolstered the starting rotation, which we've been talking about for weeks now for the Twins. I like it. Like you got to be happy if you're a Twins fan right now.
Yeah.
And especially happy because the White Sox and the Guardians did absolutely nothing of substance.
Yeah, I mean, not even nothing of substance, really. They just kind of did nothing. Like, I can't think of a trade that the Guardians actually did.
The Guardians traded with Minnesota, I believe.
Oh, Sandy Leon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they traded away Sandy Leon. And that was about it. The White Sox, as we mentioned, got Jake Diekman for Reese McGuire. Not really a huge deal. It's kind of the only thing they did.
Yeah. Surprised that those teams didn't do more.
Now, the team, I guess, that did do a lot is the Royals. And they did nothing but get worse. But I think that was basically intentional at this point. They traded away, let's see, who did they trade away? They traded away Whit Merrifield.
Yes.
That should have happened, 3 years ago?
That's the key, right? So they traded him when he's kind of having a not so great season, even though he's been better of late. They probably should have traded him years ago, like you're saying, and they traded him at this point, and who knows if that returns any good, right?
Yeah. Let's see, who else did they trade away? They traded away Benintendi to the Yankees. They traded Carlos Santana to the Mariners.
Emmanuel Rivera to Arizona to get Luke Weaver.
Yeah, they got Luke Weaver, which is not really a huge upgrade. Brady Singer had a great month, so that's a good sign for them improving. But when you trade off all the somewhat decent pieces you got, that doesn't really scream, we're going to be good.
And the whole thing with the Royals is their pitching has been so bad, and they had so much struggles developing pitchers. So one of the guys they got in the Merrifield trade was Max Castillo, who's pretty well regarded pitching prospect from the Blue Jays. So maybe he's a guy that can help them. They also traded for 3 pitchers from the Benintendi trade, but who knows if that's gonna pay off.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Because
for whatever reason they held on to some guys they maybe should have traded, like Scott Barlow, Michael Taylor, and maybe a Hunter Dozier. Why are they holding on to these 29-year-old guys?
Yeah, I don't get it. The one thing that I'm seeing here that's kind of a silver lining is, so they gave up Whit Merrifield, but they did at least get a speed guy in return in Samad Taylor, who's got 23 stolen bases in AAA this year. So,
the Royals and always targeting fast guys, right? That's the thing.
Yep.
Usually they can't hit, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the Royals or Tigers?
Tigers. A whole lot. They traded Michael Fulmer, which they 100% should have, but I don't really think they did anything else, did they?
The only other one I can think of is they traded Robbie Grossman to the Braves.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll go over to the Braves then. The Braves. So is Robbie Grossman this year's Eddie Rosario, guy that's had a really rough first half, but he's been a solid player in the past, and then he might start playing well on a good team?
I don't think so, but some people do. He's good against lefties. I'll give him that. I don't have any other nice things to say, so I should move on to a different player.
Not a Robbie Grossman fan.
Not a Robbie Grossman fan, no. But yeah, their moves were kind of weird. For position players, they really only got guys who just kind of give you bench pieces. They went and got I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but Adrianza, who was on the Braves last year. He went over to the Nats this year. They traded for him back. They got Robbie Grossman. Pitching is kind of where they did actually upgrade. And Jake Odorizzi, who they gave up Tucker Davidson and someone else to get him.
No, Odorizzi, they gave up Will Smith.
Will Smith. Iglesias was Tucker Davidson and Jesse Chavez.
Yeah.
To the Angels.
So this trade surprised me quite a bit because Raisel Iglesias signed a 4-year deal before the season with the Angels, and he got traded in the middle of the first year of the contract. That doesn't really happen too often.
Nope.
The Angels clearly trying to offload some salary, and they got back a legit good prospect in Tucker Davidson, who's been really good at AAA this year. And we all know that the Angels need starting pitching.
Is Tucker Davidson immediately the Angels' number 2?
Probably pretty close, yeah.
I would say number 1, but Shohei. So didn't get traded. That's important to note.
Yeah.
But Yeah.
But yeah, now they've got like a two-headed monster in Iglesias and Kenley Jansen at the back of their bullpen, and that's I would say that's an upgrade over Will Smith.
Yeah, 100%. It felt kind of odd that they were trading Will Smith when they did. Like he's not been great, but that bullpen kind of won him a World Series last year. So it was weird to see him break that up, but knowing that they were going to go out and get Iglesias, yeah, it makes a lot more sense. So
Right.
now on the flip side of that, the Angels got rid of Iglesias. They got rid of Noah Syndergaard. They sent him over to the Phillies. And then they also sent Brandon Marsh over to the Phillies. Separate deals. The Brandon Marsh deal was Marsh for Logan O'Hoppe, who's a double-A catcher. I think he was the number 3 prospect for the Phillies, I think.
Yeah, he's a really solid catching prospect, and
that was a
Angels
1-for-1 swap.
Yeah, but this one really surprised me because Marsh has 4 years of control, 5 years of control left.
I think 5.
And yeah, so they sort of are. It almost feels like they just gave up on him like really soon, which I don't really get. The Phillies do get a real guy that can play center field, which has been a deficiency for them for a long time now. So at the very minimum, they've got a true center fielder now. And if they can figure some things out with him, then they've got themselves a really good player. But then on the other side of it, Logan O'Hoppe, like he's a good prospect as well.
And then the Syndergaard trade, which was also with the Phillies, actually saw one of the young center fielders that the Phillies actually had back to the Angels, which was weird because they took Marsh and they got rid of Mickey Moniak, who has not lived up to his high prospect pedigree, but he's what, 24?
Yeah, probably.
Like,
so yeah, he's like their new center fielder now. I mean, they got that Mike Trout guy, but
yeah, but when his back's hurting.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The Angels they continue to confuse and astound me. Perry Manassian, I'm kind of done giving him a chance.
Already?
Yeah.
It's not even been 2 years. Or it's been
the moves he's made have just been odd. Like he makes a move and then he undoes his move like immediately. Like
the Iglesias thing,
Yeah. Like, dude, just make up your mind, stick with it for like a full year. That's all I'm asking. Stick with it for 1 year. Let's see what happens.
It feels like a cash problem, right?
Yeah, and that's an Artie Moreno problem.
Right. And then the elephant in the room is the Shohei Ohtani trade situation.
Yeah.
They traded him. That really could have been something that would have accelerated the rebuild. You almost feel like they should have done it.
Yeah. The reason they didn't was purely a marketing and cash inflow thing.
I think it's an ownership thing.
Well, it's that too, but I mean, the ownership is probably saying we make a ton of money from sponsors because of this guy. We can't go trade him. And they love making their money. They just don't love spending it on the team again. So.
Yep, it's always sad in Los Angeles.
Yeah, but it's always sunny in Philadelphia. So.
Yeah, I really like what the Phillies did in general because they also got David Robertson, who is probably the best reliever on the market. They got the best rental starter in Syndergaard, and they got a real center fielder in Marsh. So
yeah,
you got to give credit to Dombrowski. He did well.
Well, and Marsh's struggles have been with the bat. They have not been on defense. He is phenomenal at defense. So, so that was a really good move, in my opinion, from Dombrowski's standpoint. So,
let's see what else we got. The Giants. The Giants actually held on to Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson. So I guess they're gonna give a half-hearted attempt to contend. They did send Darren Ruff to the Mets. They got 3 prospects and JD Davis in return, so it kind of seems like a wash. It doesn't really move the needle in either direction, I would say.
No, it doesn't move the needle on this season. It might move the needle on the future maybe a little bit if the prospects turn out, but yeah, that one was a weird trade too. Mostly from the Mets standpoint. Why Why give up 3 prospects in JD Davis for Darren Ruff?
Because Darren Ruff rules.
Well, yeah,
He's
Rufftober,
good.
but like, well, I guess they will be in October, so
Yeah,
maybe they're just counting on Rufftober.
They're really lacking. The Mets have kind of had trouble with power, and when you go out and you get Vogelback and Darren Ruff, those guys can pair together, take that DH spot, and hopefully hit a lot of home runs. Bogey actually hit a grand slam today,
Oh,
so there you
nice.
go. The Mets also added Michael Givens, but beyond that, they were pretty quiet, right? And one of the big surprises to me is that they didn't make an improvement at catcher. They didn't go out and get Wilson Contreras. Um, I guess they have the faith in James McCann and Tomas Nido, but that seems like a spot that they really needed an upgrade.
Well, and that's assuming that both those guys stay healthy, which has not been the case so far.
Right? Yeah, I
So,
think McCann's coming back tomorrow.
yeah.
Talk about the Cubs. They held on to Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ, which was really surprising, especially for Contreras, right? But
So
um,
I I don't really understand. I guess the return was not worth burning a bridge. There is probably what it was, and because
I don't know about it's about the burning the bridge. I think maybe the returns just weren't as good as a pick that they would get for offering in the qualifying offer. He goes sign for another team, and you get the I think 67th to 80th pick in the draft. So maybe
that could
that's the
be.
calculus there.
Well, and the other side with this is if they want to, they can realistically go and make an actual offer to bring him back, and he might take it.
Right.
Like it's one of those that if you trade a guy away, yeah, there's some guys that are going to come back, but with the
It
state
almost
the Cubs
never
are in,
happens.
it almost never happens. And with the state that the Cubs are in right now, if you did it, it like you'd almost just say sayonara, good luck to you, and just
No.
leave. So this does leave the door open to bring him back. Is it likely to happen? Probably not, but it could. So we'll see. Because he does legitimately love playing for Chicago. So
It's the
I
only
can,
organization he's known. He
yeah.
signed when he was like 16 years old. He's been here for 14 years.
So I could see it. I could see him
Um,
potentially coming back, but
yeah, I think yeah. So we gotta kind of just wait and see on that one. With Hap, it's not that surprising that he didn't get moved because he does have the additional year next year. Um, I don't know. Don't have many other thoughts on that, but
I
probably to
think
maximize his value, they could have traded him now. And I guess they just didn't find the partner. And I'm assuming the price was quite high.
yeah, as it should have been. So I think we've only got 2 other teams to talk about. Three. 3 other teams to talk about, I think. You want to hop back to the Blue Jays? We talked about Whit Merrifield already.
Yeah.
So the Blue Jays actually made a couple of different moves, and they didn't make any big splashy moves, but they made a couple interesting ones. They went and got Mitch White from the Dodgers, young starting pitcher. He's got maybe 4 years of control left, but he's like 26 or 7 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
But so they brought him in. I don't think they gave up a ton for him. 2 lower prospects, I think. And then they also went and made a trade with the Marlins to bring in 2 relievers, and Zach Pop and Anthony Bass. They ended up, and I think there might be a PTBNL associated with that as well. And then they sent back Jordan Groshans, who was a very highly rated prospect for them. He has since lost all of his power. I think his slug percentage this year is somewhere around 350.
I think it was under that. It was like under 300 or something.
It was in the 300s here. Let me look.
It was not good.
No, it was not good.
He's like a fallen star prospect, but I guess the Marlins see something in him. So that makes me think of like Jazz Chisholm situation
Oh,
because
no, you're right. I was thinking OBP 348. His slug is 296.
yeah, anytime your slug's under 300, you've got a major problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe the Marlins can revive him. But speaking of the Marlins, they didn't really trade their veteran players, which I was surprised by. They didn't trade Garrett Cooper. They didn't trade Jesus Aguilar. I don't know why.
I mean, they just kind of kept the whole band together, didn't they?
Why? They're like the worst team in the league
Yeah,
on
I mean, they
offense.
shouldn't have, but they did.
Yeah.
So,
And then they also held on to Pablo Lopez, which you can easily justify, but maybe
yeah.
it was the time to do it, like we talked about last week.
Yeah. So that one makes sense if he's your long-term plan for your rotation with Sandy, him, Eury Perez. I could see that, but you could have got a pretty good return with how the market was for starting pitchers. So, the other Florida team made a couple of small moves. So the Rays went out and got David Peralta from the Diamondbacks. And then they went out and got a center fielder in Jose Siri from the Astros. What do you think of those moves?
Um, they're all right, but I feel like the Rays didn't do enough here. Series just basically like Kevin Kiermaier 2.0, but can hit even less than Kiermaier. The
Yeah.
Rays, the Rays are not. I don't feel like the Rays are that good this year. They're not the same as they've been in the last few years.
Yeah. And there's a couple teams that have kind of overtaken them.
Yeah, they've also dealt with tons of injuries. They're missing Wander right now, so it's a little bit of a struggle for the Rays.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
I think we're down to just the Cardinals.
And we talked about the Cardinals. They also traded for Jose Quintana and Chris Stratton, so got two starters to add to the mix, and also a reliever.
So
So
two starters and a reliever, and two starters and two relievers, because the one that we didn't list here is the Edmundo Sosa for Jojo Romero, who is technically at AAA right now, but he has pitched quite a. He's probably going to be a piece in the bullpen here in the second half. So really, we got two relievers, two starters, and these two starters put us at six starters for the team. So we're actually moving Andre Palante back to the bullpen to be a high leverage reliever. So the Cardinals kind of went from having no depth whatsoever, with Jack Flaherty out, Steven Matz out, to bringing in two starters, being able to move Andre Palante back to the bullpen. Now, Jack's going on rehab assignment starting next week. So if he can come back and actually stay healthy this time, the Cardinals are going from having no depth at pitching, at starting pitcher or in the bullpen, to all of a sudden having a decent amount of depth. I mean, it's nothing insane, but like that's a big overhaul in your rotation. Just getting Jack back and healthy and bringing in these guys that they got at the deadline. Like,
yep.
A lot of people thought that. So a lot of Cardinals fans thought that the Cardinals just absolutely bombed this deadline. They didn't go get Juan Soto. We didn't trade all of our prospects away to go get Pablo Lopez and some other people. But the guys that we did get, Jordan Montgomery, Jose Quintana, Chris Stratton, those guys are solid pitchers, and that's kind of, and they're durable and they're effective. That's kind of what we need. And we did it without giving up anything except for Harrison Bader, who's got one more year and he's hurt right now. And I love Harrison Bader. I am so sad to see him go, but the move made so much sense for the Cardinals. Like, I can't be upset. And then in the Quintana and Stratton trade, we gave up Johan Oviedo, who is a really good young pitcher. So that's kind of unfortunate. And Malcolm Nunez, who's I think maybe our number 11 prospect. And so the Pirates got some good pieces there for the future, but we got things that we desperately need now. So I kind of thought the Cardinals had a really good deadline, in my personal opinion.
I think so too. Yeah, definitely the starting pitching depth's the most important part, and the fact that the Brewers didn't really improve that much. They didn't go out and get a bat, or they didn't do a whole lot. So it's like by
Yeah.
default, the Cardinals did well there.
Yeah, and it moved Edmundo Sosa, who was kind of ineffective and just a bench guy that wasn't getting a ton of opportunities, moved him off the roster, so cleared a roster spot there. Paul DeYoung came up, and he's hit a couple home runs since he came up. But when Juan Yepez comes back, who's to say that DeYoung doesn't get option back down and Yepez takes the spot? Like, it just opens up the bench spots for some of these more highly touted young players. And so that one was kind of addition by subtraction while also getting us a reliever in Jojo Romero. So I thought it was a good deadline. And that's knowing that there was not a great chance of the Cardinals getting Soto. We were able to keep Jordan Walker and Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman. Like, those are three really highly rated guys in their prospect status. Dylan's been starting to come into his own, so I'm kind of really happy with the way this went. So
there's 3 teams that we did not mention by name. Can you think of them off the top of your head? They didn't do a whole lot, so they're probably not top of mind, but the Rangers.
Yeah, I was going to say we didn't mention them by name, but they did trade Matt Bush to the Brewer. What? Yeah, to the Brewers.
We also didn't talk at all about the Pirates. Well, we indirectly did through the Quintana trade. I don't think we said the word Pirates, but maybe we did. And then the Diamondbacks, who traded David Peralta, but didn't do a whole lot other than that, and Luke Weaver. But
interesting.
We covered a lot.
Yeah, that was that was a pretty full hour and 10 minutes.
Yes, it was.
I definitely think we could have probably taken a bit longer and gone a little bit more in depth on some of these, but well, we got weeks to talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. So, all these things will come back as we go through the last third of the season. So do you think there's actually another team that had a near as good a trade deadline as the Padres? Or did anyone have just such a bad trade deadline that they need to be mentioned once again?
I mean, so for an entirely different reason, but I would say the Reds had almost as equal of a good trade deadline as the Padres.
Yeah, as a seller.
Like they're kind of the two sides. Obviously, Washington got a pretty darn good return, but they really only made that one trade. Justifiably, like that's a huge deal, and I would have devoted all my time to that one too.
They also had no one else to trade because they packaged the 2 good guys they had.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think those are the two I would say had the best deadline.
Sure.
The worst deadline is obviously the teams that did nothing, and the Cleveland. I think Cleveland is probably the worst deadline.
I think the White Sox too.
I kind of think that Cleveland's was worse because the only thing they did was give away one player for cash. They didn't even get a player in return. It was Sandy Leon for cash. Their backup catcher. So they have holes. They have a decent young team, but they have a lot of holes. And they filled none of them. They didn't get any prospects. They didn't even replenish the backup catcher role. Like, what the hell? I got to talk to Matt about that one because he's got to be just as frustrated as I am with that. But, oh well.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the trade deadline for 2022. And I guess make sure you subscribe on your podcasting apps and YouTube.
Little bell.
Bell for the notifications. Let us know your thoughts in the comments or in review form on Apple Podcasts, Twitter and Facebook at Getaway Day Pod. And we will talk to you next week.
Make sure to go to our Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok and enter into our giveaway. I will retweet or I will repost all those links or those posts so that you can see them easily. And now I think that's it. So send us on out of here.
All right, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good week.